From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Friday, October the 9th, 2020. With the Jewish holiday of Simchat Torah this weekend, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urged continued adherence to the coronavirus restrictions in place in Israel, which is finally starting to see a drop in COVID-19 cases. Netanyahu told the ultra-Orthodox Kol Barama radio station that people celebrating the holiday should not gather and not dance with the Torah as is customary. He said there is no greater blasphemy than for us to lose lives due to Simchat Torah. Pray outside, keep to the rules, and sanctify both the Torah and the value of life. Israel's chief rabbis echoed the prime minister's message. Chief Ashkenazi Rabbi David Lau and Chief Sephardic Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef said worshipers should pray outdoors, maintain social distancing, wear masks, and avoid gatherings. They said with all the pain of not being able to celebrate Simchat Torah as we do every year, Torah scrolls must not be passed between worshipers and must not be kissed so as not to infect each other. We are the descendants, they said, of one nation. One virus is threatening all of us. Separatism and violence are not our way. Only with our combined strength can we, with the help of God, get through this difficult period. A political ad released by the Jewish Democratic Council of America is causing some controversy within the Jewish community. It shows images and suggests comparisons between the Trump administration and the rise of fascism in Germany in the 1930s. It states in part, history shows us what happens when leaders use hatred and nationalism to divide their people. The JTA reports Executive Director Haley Seufer defended the ad, saying, "We are not calling Donald Trump a Nazi. We are warning against the ominous parallel of the rise of Nazism and the use of hatred for political purposes." While a number of Jewish groups condemned the ad, CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, tweeted, "This has no place in the presidential race and is deeply offensive to the memories of 6 million plus Jews systematically exterminated during the Shoah," adding that elected leaders who call for violence should be condemned, full stop. At the same time, we urge leaders and their surrogates to refrain from invoking the Holocaust. The American Jewish Committee tweeted that offensive comparisons between 2020 America and 1930s Germany distract from the urgent need to fight Jew hatred. They also trivialize the memories of both victims and survivors. Simon Wiesenthal Center Associate Dean Rabbi Abraham Cooper said both Donald Trump and Joe Biden are fair game for loud and sustained criticism on their policies, language, and style. But invoking of Nazi imagery not only slanders the victims of the Nazis, the candidate, but the tens of millions of Americans who support him. There were also those who thought the ad was fair. Holocaust historian Professor Deborah Lipstadt, in a video conference hosted by the Jewish Democratic Council, said, "I would say in the attacks we're seeing on the press, the courts, academic institutions, elected officials, and even, most chillingly, the electoral process, that this deserves comparison. It's again showing how the public's hatred can be whipped up against Jews." Had the ad contained imagery of the Shoah, the Holocaust, she said, though, "I wouldn't be here today." Holocaust survivor and former head of the ADL, Abraham Foxman, told the JTA, "There is serious hate out there which is reminiscent of the hate that we lived through, part of our history." He said Jewish antennas quiver. It doesn't have to be Nazism to worry us that hate is out there, and hate is not being challenged. Well, more fallout from the protests in Borough Park, Bklyn, New York this week against coronavirus restrictions imposed by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Agudath Israel, the Jewish ultra-Orthodox umbrella organization, filed a lawsuit against the governor yesterday over the restrictions on religious gatherings that were put into place in hotspots for COVID-19, many of which have high populations of ultra-Orthodox Jews. Measures, the group claims, are discriminatory and unconstitutional, referring to Simchat Torah this weekend, stating that 48 hours before the onset of these holidays, defendant Governor Cuomo issued an executive order that singles out and discriminates against all houses of worship, and synagogues in particular, by imposing occupancy and gathering restrictions that make it impossible for Orthodox Jews to comply with both their religious obligations and the order. And as we reported to you, there were several incidents of violence in the protests this week against the restrictions in Borough Park, including against a Jewish journalist who himself is a member of the ultra-Orthodox community, who was there covering the story. The New York Post cited a statement from the New York Board of Rabbis saying that we cannot defend individuals in our Jewish community who demonstrate a blatant disregard for the COVID-19 health protocols and endanger their lives and those of other people. We are also appalled by the shameful behavior of those who burn masks or beat people who protest their noncompliance. And with Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah this weekend, JBS will have live services from Central Synagogue at 6 o'clock tonight, followed by services from the Hampton Synagogue, which will also have services tomorrow, Saturday at 11 a.m. and 7:15 p.m., and then Sunday at 11 a.m. And more of tonight's programming for Friday, October the 9th at 8 o'clock, Deborah Lipstadt discussing her book, Anti-Semitism Here and Now, with writer Barry Weiss. At 9, it's the film Starting Over Again, a Jewish-Egyptian story, first-hand accounts of Jews leaving Egypt from the time Israel became a state. Then at 10, it's a replay of Rabbi Shlomo Riskin looking at Simchat Torah, which you will see coming up next here on JBS. And at 10:30 tonight, a replay of the Hampton services, and then a replay of the services from Central Synagogue. And that's the JBS News Update for Friday, October the 9th, 2020. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay healthy, stay well. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.